Welcome back to the Neutral Save podcast. It's been a wild week in sports as always. NBA playoffs are heating up. NHL playoffs are heating up. Got a couple of rule changes in the NFL today that were just announced today on April 1st. Got some wild stuff in college basketball happening with the Final Four coming this weekend. And I am proud and very happy to bring on another one of our contributors. We announced this last week, Dylan Chambers. He's going to be covering the NBA and college basketball. Also has a knowledgeable background in football, played football in high school, which me and Briggs also did not do. But Chambers, take it away. Anything you want to say?
Hey man, it's great to be here. Um, first thing I'd like to talk about is Taylor Jenkins being fired, being dismissed from the Memphis Grizzlies. He had him in a great spot. They were 44 and 29 coming in. He's won 250 games over his 5.5 seasons there, which is a franchise record, right? They were on pace to win 50 games this season, and there was only 9 games left. They're fifth in the conference. I mean, it kind of puts them in shambles going into the playoffs. I'm not sure how they're going to fare come playoff time. Um, I mean, I don't really see why he was fired by the organization, unless it was something internal. But I mean, he had him in a good spot. He's quite literally the best coach that franchise has ever had, and they just said goodbye to him. I mean,
I just that one kind of surprised me too.
yeah, yeah,
We If you've watched the podcast before, you know me and Briggs don't really cover a lot of the NBA, not super knowledgeable in it, and it's just not our favorite because me personally, I think it's a very watered down product. But this one kind of
yeah,
surprised
yeah.
me, unless it was something with the John Morant situation from last year or the year before with the gun thing, something internal that something done in the organization that the organization doesn't want to get out. But that one surprised me, seeing that they were in a playoff spot and kind of set them out.
They were in a good spot. They were in a great spot. So I'm I'm thinking maybe there's a situation that they didn't like the way he handled, or multiple situations. But yeah, like you said, it was very surprising when I saw that. I was like, whoa.
That one surprised me. Moving on, Giddy's game winner for
Let's talk about
Chicago. Get your thoughts on
yeah.
that.
Let's talk about that comeback. Let's talk about that comeback, man. Like, so within 5 seconds, they score. They're down 115, 110. They score 6 points. Everyone thinks Chicago's going to win. Then Austin Reeves goes down, like 2 seconds left. Like, thought the game's over. Austin Reeves makes the bucket. He has 30 points on the night. And then Josh Giddey in LeBron's face from half court just splashes it. But like that I think that might be the comeback of the year. 9 points in 10 seconds. That was great. That was great to watch.
How happy do you think Stephen A. Smith was when he shot that over LeBron? Like, I wish I
Oh,
hated.
I
I wish
bet,
I loved anything as much as Stephen A. hates LeBron.
honestly, like, I'm sure he was sitting there watching it, and whatever drink he had in his hand, he probably spilled when he jumped up, and he was definitely happy that happened.
Stephen A. was definitely hitting like the gritty or something in his house.
Yeah.
He's like, yes, I was right about LeBron. But insane comeback. Josh Giddey hitting that over LeBron. That is something he'll probably remember for the rest of his life against the top two player in of all time in
I
the
think
NBA. We can leave the
I
Jordan
think I
debate
think
up for another day, but
well,
insane.
he's at least in the top two. Well, I think that's a play that we're gonna be watching on highlight reels for a long time to come. That was a great play. The comeback itself was just it was insanity. It was insane. But on a more negative note, let's talk about the Pistons and Timberwolves brawl that broke out and literally got into the crowd. Like, there were people in the crowd that reaped the benefits of that brawl.
That I mean, that we see the Pistons of old about like stuff like that used to happen
But
normally in the NBA, and it's kind of gotten away from that. Five
are the
players.
bad boy Pistons back?
I'd like to see it. Every sport should
I
have
mean,
fighting at this point. Like it'll get the
And,
views up.
oh, and after the game in the press conference, everyone within that organization said, nothing like they said that they didn't handle it in a bad way. They said they handled it the way that we taught them to. They handled that situation the way that the coaches wanted them to. And you can tell because two coaches were also ejected or suspended for fighting as well. Like the coaches quite literally got into a fight after the players were broken up. So like, I mean, it was brewing the whole time. Throughout the whole game, it was brewing. And then that foul on Nas Reed just kind of sealed it. DiVincenzo didn't like it.
I just don't understand how Pistons coaches got ejected, but Jawan Howard didn't.
Well, it's the bad boy Pistons. It
Oh,
ain't the bad boy Timberwolves. Yeah, we saw 5 players and 2 coaches get ejected or suspended. Isaiah Stewart was actually suspended for 2 games following that altercation. So, yeah.
I think we should just let him fight. I think the halftime should just be like two players just going at it. Like, I'd love to see
Hey,
LeBron.
you have
You know, we should have LeBron and Josh Giddey fight. I mean, LeBron might
you should have LeBron
actually.
and Stephen A. fight.
Yeah, let's just have a LeBron Stephen instead of Jake Paul. We just need to have LeBron and Stephen A. go for boxing.
Yeah. Who needs UFC? We got the NBA.
Hey, I mean that's what hockey's known for. So I mean,
Yeah,
maybe
there
the
you go.
NBA can gain some of its popularity back.
Hey, maybe. Also, speaking back to the whole good shots. Did you see that shot Jokic had?
The one hand, one leg, right before half. It wasn't
3/4 court.
at his own free throw line, and I just I already think Jokic is
Jokic
MVP.
does it all.
I already think Jokic is MVP. That's a conversation we can have when it actually happens. But
Oh, it's gonna happen. Jokic can do it all.
I don't know because I think voter fatigue, man. I think voter fatigue because they did the
Voter
same thing
fatigue.
with Lamar Jackson this year.
Yeah. Oh yeah. How he won? He was a first team All Pro quarterback, but didn't win MVP. Like, how much
Now
sense does
Josh
that really
Allen should
make?
have. I think it was Josh Allen should have won it last year, but it's still voter fatigue. It's just
Right.
I don't know,
They don't want to give Jokic his fourth MVP in 5 years, 6 years.
which he should. I don't. Have we ever
Well,
seen?
I think
Have we ever
he
seen a?
deserves it. He
Have
deserves
we
it.
ever seen a center do this? Ever?
Have we ever seen a center that's so well rounded? He's so good at in every single category.
And the not
He might be the best passer in the league. He's hands down the best center. Not to mention he gets 12 plus rebounds every game. We saw him have a 30-20-20 game the other night. Like
which is
Jokic can do it
insane.
all. It's wild.
I just I don't I don't understand how you can. Jokic might make a run for like greatest player of all time when his career is all said and done.
I,
Because if you look
see,
at it,
I
if you look at it, like, did you see that? Like, he turned around and threw the ball behind his back pass that he had.
yeah, oh yeah, I saw that.
Like, that's insane.
See, the thing, Jokic, I think will, and I think he's already a top 5 center of all time. I think he will be the greatest center of all time when it's all said and done. But I think the amount of rings he has would keep him out of the GOAT debate in terms of greatest player of all time. He's still got some winning to do, but outside of that, he might be the most well-rounded player we've ever seen. Definitely the most well-rounded player of this generation. Like the players currently in the league.
I agree with that.
Jokic does it all. And a lot of players have been getting hurt lately, and we've seen a lot of blowout games because of that. Like I think that the strong teams are only gonna continue getting stronger because a lot of those players that have been getting hurt aren't on these high caliber teams, right? Like I think the Thunder and the Nuggets I think are gonna be the 2 teams that when the Western Conference playoffs come around, those are gonna be the teams to beat. The Lakers look great. Like any of those 3 teams, I think those are those are my 3 picks, and I wouldn't bet against any of those 3 teams when in terms of the Western Conference. The Eastern Conference, I think it comes down to Boston, and probably Cleveland.
Even
Um,
not even
I
in
think
Milwaukee.
those. Look, Milwaukee's looking good. Milwaukee's a good team, but I don't see them beating Boston. I don't see them beating Cleveland. Like we've seen Cleveland go on a 14 plus game win streak twice this season, right? Like they started off 14-0. They were on a 16 game win streak a couple weeks ago. Like I think Cleveland, if Cleveland beat Boston in the Eastern Conference Finals and went to the NBA Finals, I would not be the slightest bit surprised.
Please, please, as a Cleveland fan, please bring something to the state of Ohio. Well, we just won the Natty, but still,
Well, yeah,
we
you
just won
just
the
won a
Natty.
national
But
championship.
and another thing I've noticed is that there's been a lot. I don't know if it's normal, but I've been keeping up with the NBA scores more recently. But there's been a lot of 240, 250 point games. It's like the amount of points they're scoring. It looks like the NBA All Star game from 2 years ago.
There's no defense. Yeah, there's no defense. Like we saw the Pacers win a game with they scored 162 points, and it wasn't even their starters. They only had one 20-point scorer, and that was Tyrese Halliburton. Their bench provided like 100 points in that game.
Which is
Like when
insane.
you, it's what like I remember watching part of that game, and then when I looked at the box score after I seen they put up 162, and like Siakam only had 13 points. They like Halliburton had 20. He only played 24 minutes and he had 29 points. The rest of those points came from the bench. Guys like T.J. McConnell were balling. Like their whole bench, like that might be the best bench performance we've seen all season. Maybe within the last couple of years.
It's just, and I think they say offense wins, like offense gets views. But I don't know if that's always the case
It
in
does.
basketball. Like sometimes I want to see some
I
good defense sometimes. Like when we go to college,
see.
when we go to
I do
college
too.
basketball, I love watching Houston play. I love watching Duke play.
Oh,
I like watching Auburn play. You notice the four teams that are left play some of the best defense in college basketball. The only one that's not there is
100%.
probably St. John's that didn't make it to the Sweet 16. Other than that, all the four teams in the Final Four and a lot of the teams in the Elite Eight, Tennessee, not Alabama. I mean,
I mean,
Alabama's an okay
you
defensive
saw what
team.
Houston's defense.
Texas Tech really tightened
You
up on
saw.
defense. Purdue's a great defensive team.
I mean, you saw what Houston did to Tennessee's offense. The way their defense played. Like
You have 15
I
points
agree
in the first half,
100%.
and we're about to get to
That's
that. Transitioning over to college basketball. I'll let you take the first game that you want to talk about, and then we'll flip flop off. We'll only cover four of them because some of the games weren't as interesting. Like I'll go real quick. Auburn and Wolverines. Wolverines jumped out to a solid lead, and Auburn just clutched up. And it was a very impressive
100%.
performance by Pettiford and Denver Jones. And it was just a really impressive performance. And Auburn is just so deep, man. And that's what with a lot of these teams. Auburn is just
Oh yeah.
such a deep basketball team with their starting five.
I agree 100%. Auburn's looked good all year. I mean, they were number one in the country for a while for a reason. Like Auburn's a good team. I I would like to talk about Alabama and BYU. Like Alabama could not miss. I'm convinced. Like watching that game, I'm convinced if they tried, they couldn't miss. Like they shattered the record for most threes in a tournament game. And there was still 7 minutes left when they made their last three of the game. If they really wanted to, they could have kept adding to that. I'm like typically 88 points is enough to win if you're BYU, unless your opponent makes 25 threes in a game. Like they scored 75 points strictly like beyond the arc. That's insane.
And a crazy stat about that game is even if Alabama did not score a single two, they still would have won that game. And BYU's
Yeah.
defense wasn't terrible watching that game. Alabama just was
Mark Steers
making
was
shots.
amazing.
Yeah, Mark Sears with
Mark
10 threes. It was like
he
that
made 10
performance that we
threes,
saw from Jack Golke last year against Kentucky. And
right?
that wasn't even Kentucky's fault. It's just you got a guy that was hot.
Right. And he was so hot that he made history. He's the first player in tournament history to ever have 8 made threes and 8 assists in the same game. Like Mark Sears was on point. He could not miss. And the crazier part is BYU was a top 10 team in 3-point shooting coming into that game. And Alabama said, "Hey, we can do it better."
It was an impressive game, and we knew going into that game that Alabama's a very talented offensive team. And the worry for Alabama the entire tournament, just like it was last year, and Alabama made it to the Final Four last year, is that when will their defense not hold up? And
And I was about to get to that.
it wasn't even that game. I mean, they gave up 88 points and still dominated that game, but for over 20 points. But moving on,
Yeah,
Houston and Purdue. Purdue did everything right in this game. Everything right. Did everything you needed to do to win. And then on the final play, get the inbound. And there were a couple mistakes made by Purdue at the end of that game. But the biggest mistake is you get the inbound. They pass it out. It was a terrifically drawn up play by Kelvin Sampson. And then the inbound, pass it back to the inbounder, and he just dunks it. It was a complete collapse. And there was zero point 0.8 seconds left. There was like they had 2 seconds, 2.5 seconds, 2.8 seconds, I think it was, left on the clock. It was a perfectly drawn up play.
there wasn't enough time.
It was a perfectly
There wasn't enough time for Purdue to do anything.
well, no, it was 2.8 seconds when Houston inbounded the ball, and it was a perfectly drawn up play by Houston. But what do
Oh
we?
yeah.
This goes back to basketball fundamentals, and they even said it back on the broadcast. What do you always make sure you do? You make sure you guard the inbounder. And they didn't do that. And it was a complete breakdown in the final seconds of the game. It's a heartbreak for Purdue. I would have loved to seen them move on because they're a very entertaining team to watch. Braden Smith is an absolute dog. He's very, very good when it comes to passing the ball. But one thing for Purdue is they just couldn't shoot the three. And that was their problem. They would have made it to the Elite Eight, but they just struggle. They struggled shooting. And
100%.
that's where they struggled in Houston's defense, man. And it's a consistent theme throughout this tournament is Houston's defense just continues to stifle and stifle and stifle, and it's winning them basketball games.
100%.
Your last one?
Um, so I'd like to talk about Duke and Arizona. The bottom line, the reason Duke won is because they had Cooper Flag and Arizona didn't. 100%. That is 100% the reason. I mean, he had a 30-point, 6-board, 7-dish stat line, and I I think another reason Duke won is their shooting. They shot so well from the field through the entirety of that game.
It was insane because Caleb Love, I think, had 35 points or something to that effect. Caleb and Arizona competed in this game. I give them all the credit in the world.
Yeah,
Arizona's a very good basketball team, and it sucks that they had to get eliminated in the Sweet 16. And a
I
consistent
agree.
theme throughout this tournament, Duke is just more talented. They have three guys that will be drafted in the first round. Other than Cooper Flag.
Yeah,
Cooper Flag doesn't even have to play great. He just has to play good.
he's just got to show up and just play basketball, and Duke will most likely win. And like back to what you said, it sucks to see Arizona get eliminated in the Sweet 16 because I think they're a team that maybe not win at all, but they're a team that if they would have played anyone else, I could have seen them winning and potentially making it to the Final Four. Arizona is a very talented basketball team. But when Duke, who, like you said, have 3 first-round draft picks, shoot 60% from the field and 58% from three, it's hard to beat a team like that. And like you said, all the credit in the world to Arizona. They hung in there. They only lost by 7.
In a
I mean,
very
moral
high
victories
scoring
don't go
game.
very far. Moral victories don't go very far, but like that's one of those where like that, hey, we didn't lose by 40 to a team like that. I mean, I guess you gotta take what you can get in a situation like that.
Exactly. And piggybacking off of Duke, Alabama couldn't compete with Duke on defense. And it's impressive that
No,
Arizona
they could
scored
no.
93 and Bama, who just shot 25 threes, couldn't even score
Who
70.
made 25 threes?
It Duke is just more talented than every other team in this tournament. They have so much talent on this team. It's crazy. They beat Alabama by 20. And it wasn't even Alabama's defense that fell apart. They just couldn't score.
They just they couldn't compete. Duke outplayed them on both sides of the ball.
Duke won. It almost looked like Duke wanted it more, and they just had that much more talent than everyone else. Everyone else that they played, and it's like
Yep.
the first weekend. I think they won their games by like a combined 50 something points. They're just so
Yeah. Yeah.
talented, and it's it's gonna continue to be like that. It's gonna be very interesting in the Final Four. Oh, anything else
I
on
agree.
anything else on Duke and Alabama?
No. Let's talk about the collapse that Texas Tech had at the end of that game. What are your thoughts? What are your thoughts on that game?
I was watching this game and I really wanted Texas Tech to win. One because I wanted to, I was tired of seeing the SEC bias because and
Yeah,
I didn't
I
think
figured that.
granted the SEC got two teams in the Final Four. I give them credit. You knew Florida and Auburn were two of the best teams in this tournament. They got four teams in the Elite
Right.
Eight. Give them the credit. But 7 of 13 on free throws. You complete collapse on defense.
And it
Walter Clayton, you let him get hot from three. And for those of you that watched this game, you saw Walter Clayton drive in. KJ Toppin was there. Or it might not be. I think it was. I think his name is KJ. Either way, Toppin's there in the paint. He stops him from driving and then doesn't go out and follow him. They switched on to Walter Clayton, and Toppin doesn't go follow him to out. You have to do that. You weren't playing zone, you were playing man. I would understand if you're playing 2-3,
right.
but you're playing man. You have to, if you're going to switch like that, you have to go out there and stop him from shooting that three because that three costed you the game. It gave you the chance to come back. And then when you get to the free throw line, you miss the two front ends of 1-and-1s. And that costed you the game because really you were 7 of 13.
Yep.
But in reality, you were basically 7 of 15 because you missed the front end of 1-and-1s. And it costed you this game. If you shoot those free throws, you don't lose this game. Then Florida doesn't even get the
I,
chance to come back in this game, but you had the chance. And free throw shooting was our problem in the biggest game of the year, and that's what costed you.
and to piggyback off that, it doesn't help that Florida went 21 for 23 from the charity stripe either. They couldn't miss free throws. They shot over 90%. And they ended the game on an 18-4 run. I mean,
And I don't
props
think
to
any of
Florida,
those were
but
from the field.
Texas Tech, what are we doing?
I don't think any of those were from the
No.
field. You couldn't score a field goal in the final minute. And Florida's been doing
No.
this the entire tournament where they're down in games and then they just go on an insane run where they're able to clutch up. Walter Clayton's able to make shots. A couple of their other guys are just able to make these shots that even if they're contested, not contested, these guys get hot. And if it's me, if there's one guy in the tournament I'm picking to take my shot at the buzzer beater, it is Walter Clayton Jr. because he
Walter
is the
Clayton.
most
Yep.
clutch player in this tournament, bar none.
Yeah. I agree.
Go ahead.
Also, back to Houston and Tennessee. 15 points in the first half. Like back to Houston's defense. Like, and I can't tell if it was Houston's defense playing better or Tennessee's offense playing worse. Maybe a mixture of both. But they did not look good in the first half at all. They were in shambles.
Well, Zakai Ziegler couldn't do what he normally does. Zakai Ziegler's a very good distributor. He's kind of he reminds me of Braden
He's
Smith.
got very, very good court vision.
Exactly.
He's got great court vision.
Exactly. And Zakai Ziegler, he just couldn't get any of it established. I mean, Lanier couldn't score in the first half.
Yeah,
Lanier finished 4 of 18
that's
from
what
the
I was.
field.
Yeah, I was just about to mention his shooting, and it's crazier because the game prior we saw Lanier literally like he has a 3-point shooting record for Tennessee. He's a good shooter, so he just couldn't lock in for the game, especially not in the first half. Did he even score in the first half?
I'm not sure.
Did he?
I don't have
I
those
don't think
stats
he
up.
did.
So
I don't think he scored in the first half.
in almost every stat that matters, we're gonna break this down. Field goal percentage. Houston, 42%. Tennessee, 29%. 3-point percentage. Houston, 36. Tennessee, 17. Rebounds. Houston, 42. Tennessee, 35. Blocks. Houston, 4. Tennessee, 2. Turnovers. Tennessee, 9. Houston, 5.
Yeah, Tennessee or Houston outplayed Tennessee in literally every single stat category. Literally every aspect of the game. Like honestly, the fact that the score was only 19 points is kind of a little bit surprising to me because Houston played so much better than Tennessee did in that game.
And at half, that game should have been way worse than what it was. It should have.
Yeah,
Houston should have won that game by almost 50 points.
well, yeah,
Like it.
yeah.
I'm. I was surprised. I thought it was
I
going to
mean, it
be a
was
very close game,
it
and
was
we had even talked off air before the game that we thought the games were going to be close. The
right.
only game that I thought was going to be a blowout was Duke and Alabama.
Duke, Duke and Alabama, yeah.
It
But
and going to the other game on Sunday, Auburn and Michigan State. Michigan State, Michigan
they
State could have won this game. Michigan State could have won this game.
they're scared.
Every time Michigan State could have drawn a foul because Auburn was in foul trouble at the end of the first half. They had multiple guys,
Yep.
multiple starters with 2 fouls. Auburn had the chance, or Michigan State had a chance to win this game.
It was right there for him.
And I just see them scared to drive to the rim, get their bigs in more foul trouble. They had multiple guys at the end of that game when Michigan State was trying to come back. And Michigan State's not good at shooting threes. They're not a 3-point shooting team. So what do you do to get 3 points on a possession? You drive to the rim and cause fouls. When
You
Auburn
draw a
wasn't
foul.
fouling them, Michigan State couldn't make easy shots. Or not necessarily easy, but you couldn't make shots at the rim. Every time you're missing a layup or bounce off the glass or something that you have to make in a game against a team as talented as Auburn, and you just couldn't do it. And Auburn's players stepped up. Denver Jones stepped up. Janai Brim got hurt, took a really awkward fall, came back in the game. It was in Auburn. Tahad Pettiford made a couple of big shots. Chad Baker Mazzara made threes at timely points in the game. And it was just really Auburn's starters are so good. And if they can stay out of foul trouble, they can easily win this tournament. And it's just
I agree.
it's very very
They have the depth and the experience to win this tournament. Auburn has probably the best experience in college basketball. Like look at the age of all their players. They've all been around for a while. They know how to win games. They're all good basketball players.
exactly.
That's why Auburn was so good this year,
That's why they're the number
or is
one
so
seed
good.
in the tournament. Moving
Yep.
on, we're gonna get to a little bit of NFL because we haven't covered it in a while, and we're gonna get so we'll talk a little bit about this first. John, we'll talk about John's quarterback room. They signed Jamison Russ, and we thought Jameis was going to provide Malik Neighbors probably the best season for a wide receiver of all time.
Ever.
Exactly. He was going to look like prime Randy Moss, and Malik's a very good
Yeah.
receiver.
Uh,
And then
Malik's down there somewhere.
And then they signed Russ, which that was a move that kind of intrigued me. Russ didn't get a lot of money,
Makes things interesting.
but if you're the Giants, I would almost just give Jameis the starting spot, or maybe they might make Russ compete for the starting job. But
I, I feel like there should definitely be some competition there. I feel like Russ would be the safer option when it comes to turnovers, but when it comes to moving the ball, Jameis is your guy. Like, yeah, sure, every pass is a 50-50 chance of a touchdown or an interception. I get that. Russ has definitely got better skills. He's better at protecting the ball, but he's not as good at moving the ball. So I feel like there should definitely be a competition there. But that that both of those signings make things interesting come draft night for the New York Giants.
agreed. It just, I really, I just don't understand it. I don't understand why you sign two fringe starting quarterbacks. Because Russ ain't what he used to be. He's not the version he was when he was in Seattle. We saw that with Pittsburgh this year. I don't even think Pittsburgh
We
made the
saw it when he
picture.
was in Denver.
It just, it doesn't make a lot of sense to me. I don't know what the Giants front office is doing. Malik Neighbors probably isn't going to re-sign with them. It's just, it's
No,
just a weird.
unless they figure it out fast.
It's I agree. It's just a weird thing. Moving on, we'll move to the Aaron Rodgers sweepstakes.
Sweepstakes.
I think the Steelers are like the only team that really has a shot for him. I don't think another team really needs him. I just don't see another team that's in a place where they
The
could use
only
Aaron Rodgers.
the only other team that I would think is in that place would be the Cleveland Browns. Because do they reach and draft a quarterback at 2? Do they trade down or do they try to get Aaron Rodgers? The Cleveland Browns, I think, are the only other team that could potentially use Aaron Rodgers and actually start the guy. So I feel like he signs with Pittsburgh at some point. It's just a matter of time. Like he's taking his grand old time with it. The Steelers are allowing that to happen. But I feel like something needs to happen sooner rather than later, especially on the Steelers side. Not as much on Aaron Rodgers' part, but on the Steelers part, they need to make something happen because that is a deciding factor in whether we draft a quarterback in the first round or whether we don't. Now I get it. Aaron Rodgers played 20 seasons in the league. They're going to have to draft a quarterback no matter what. But do they try to trade up and get someone who could potentially come in and start now? Because Mason Rudolph is not the option. I mean, we've seen how bad, how good he's played over his 10 years in the NFL. He's not the option. They're going to have to draft somebody. But I feel like whether or not they get Aaron Rodgers before the draft makes it determines whether they trade up and try to get somebody like Shador or whether they just sit
Well, they
and
do have
let
number
it all
two.
play out.
They do have number two, so Shador is there because I think, and we're about to get into this, but I think bar none, Cam Ward's the first pick of the draft. I think anything
100%.
else would absolutely shock me. I think Cam Ward's by far the best quarterback in this draft. I think he's top two most best reading.
He's the most mature.
I think he's the most mature passer in this draft. I think he's got some
I
competition
agree with
for
you.
pre and post snap reads. I think that's something that they're gonna have to work on him with. But Cam Ward's ceiling is extremely high, and he reminds me of Michael Penix last year, where
Right.
he's the most mature passer in this draft.
I agree. And to add to that, the Titans through the whole process because everyone's speculating, oh, they're going to take Cam Ward at 1. I'm not sure if it's just like they don't want people to know that they're definitely going to take him at 1 because they've mentioned on multiple occasions, hey, we're listening to calls for the number 1 pick. But I think
Well, I would too.
I think that's crazy. I I listen, they need a quarterback. Will Levis is not the answer. I think like the only way I would consider not drafting Cam Ward at 1 is if someone comes to me with a list like, hey, we'll give you all this for that pick.
Well,
And it would have to include multiple, like a lot of first round picks over the next
I
couple of seasons.
think I see. I think I seen a
Because
trade where I forget who it was. I think it was the Patriots, where the Patriots trade Drake May, their first round pick, their number 4 pick, their 2026 first round pick, and a couple other draft picks. And if I'm the
Drake
Titans,
May didn't play bad.
it might have been a different.
I
It
would
might have
I
been a
would take
different
that.
team. Now thinking about it, I don't think there's a quarterback included in that. It might have been a different team. But even then, you give me 2 first round picks, a couple of other picks, and a quality player. I gotta consider it because I don't think Cam Ward is that great of talent. He's not what Trevor Lawrence was coming out of college, or
Right.
what Baker
Right.
Mayfield was, or Kyler Murray. He's not, or Joe Burrow.
Right.
He's not that type of talent. I don't think he's this wow
But
factor of a quarterback. I just think he's
the
the
thing
best
is,
option there.
that's exactly. Are the Titans willing to sit back and be bad for another year to try and draft someone next year, though? Are they willing to sit and wait on that talent to come?
I don't think there's
Because
another one. I don't think there's a talent. Like, if you look at college football, I don't think there's another quarterback waiting in the wings. I don't think Arch Manning is the guy that everyone thinks he is. I really don't. And I've talked about
I
this on
don't
the
either.
podcast before. I've seen Arch Manning play football in this year. He didn't. He struggled against ULM. I don't think Arch is the guy. For Texas, sure, maybe. Whatever. I think Texas is going to be one of the best teams in the country next year. I think they're even going to beat Ohio State week 2. Like, don't get me wrong. I think Arch is
Well,
going
you
to be
have
a
to.
great quarterback in college. But do I think there's a reason he didn't start over Ewers this year. And there's something we don't
Well,
know. Arch is a great runner,
well.
but who says he can read
Keep in
coverage?
mind his last name's Manning. His last name's Manning. That'll
Of
get you
course.
pretty far.
And I don't know if you remember this, but Arch was a 4-star until people started freaking out about it because he's a Manning.
Right.
He was a 4-star. Like, let's not forget about
Right.
that. Arch, I don't, and he's gonna be great in college. He's gonna do great things for Texas this year. But I just don't. I don't think he's gonna be a guy in the NFL next year.
I think he has the potential to be a good NFL quarterback. But like you said, there's certain things he's got to work on. Like, can the guy read coverage? Right? Like, he struggled against ULM. I think.
Mind you, this is the
And
SEC.
this brings me back to the
This isn't
Giants.
the Big 12.
Right.
Like, if it's the Big 12, we can have a different conversation. I think that's why a lot of the Oklahoma quarterbacks looked as good as they did, because they weren't playing Big 10 or SEC defenses.
Right.
So,
Well, the Big 12's always been a passing school, a passing conference. And, I mean, we've seen that. Like, how many Big 12 quarterbacks are starters in the NFL? A lot.
exactly. And it gives you the chance to develop.
Right.
I don't think there's another quarterback coming out in 2026 that's just going to be a wow factor. Because I'm high on Julian
Carson
Sain,
Beck.
but I was like, even then, I would be high on Julian Sain if he was still at Alabama. I've been high on Julian Sain since he came out of high school. Don't get me wrong. I'm
Right.
high on Julian Sain. I think he's going to do very well in an Ohio State offense. Dante Moore, it'll be interesting. I don't know how Dante Moore is going to perform, but he's a guy coming out next year. He could be, I don't know a great comparison for him. Kind of like a Kyler Murray type coming out of college. But Dante Moore's a guy that interests me. I don't think Cade Klubnik's going to wow you coming out next year. I think Cade's going to be a Heisman finalist, but I don't think he's going to be a guy that wows you on film and coming into the draft next year, even though I think he'll be a first-round pick. Trying to think of other quarterbacks that are returning. DJ Lagway, I think, wasn't Lagway a true freshman this year?
Yes. Yes, he was.
So Lagway's not coming out
He's
next
a true
year.
freshman. Nope.
I was trying to think of who else.
They need to remove the vendetta from the game. There's no reason.
Is there anyone else off the top of your head that's coming out next year?
A quarterback I've liked since he came into college football. I believe that he is draft eligible next year, but we don't even know if he's going to be a starter this year.
Maybe Nuss.
Katie Salter.
Maybe Nuss. Nuss will be coming out next year more than likely if he leaves early.
Yeah. Yep. I think he could be a good quarterback in the NFL.
I struggle with his
But
decision
another,
making though. I think he makes bad decisions
yeah, I
sometimes.
agree.
He makes very bad
But
decisions. I think that's the problem you have with
that's the
Jackson Dart.
same. That I was just about to say that. That's the problem with Jackson Dart. He's got all the intangibles. He has the potential to be a great quarterback in the NFL. But like it's the decision making. Like you saw the game against Florida.
Which costed them a
Like
playoff spot.
yeah, that game cost them a playoff spot.
Yeah.
If I'm not mistaken, they were 8-1, I believe, going into that game. And I think, or were
I
they
think they were
maybe
8 and 2.
8-2?
I think they were 8 and 2 by that
Yeah,
point because
yeah,
they had lost to Kentucky and LSU by that point, I believe.
yeah, and that knocked them out of a potential playoff spot.
Especially after beating Georgia. But anyway,
Yeah, they beat Georgia the week before.
exactly. Anyway, kind of already got into this. I made a mock draft. If you haven't seen it, go check it out on Instagram. Dylan and I are going to take our 3 most interesting picks that I have for that mock draft. And I made this about a week ago and posted it probably 3 or 4 days ago. It's on Instagram. If you haven't seen it, go to at the NutriSave or at NutriSave podcast, at the NutriSave podcast. The link's in the description, or the link's going to be in the bio, the YouTube bio. So I made a mock draft. We're going to pick 3 of our most intriguing picks that I have, and we're going to talk about it. So I'll let you go first, Dylan, and we'll dive into this.
So the first one that's interesting to me would be, and we've already talked about this a little bit, would be the Giants taking Will Campbell at 3 over a quarterback. A couple weeks ago, we thought for sure that Shador Sanders was a top 3 pick. We thought if he doesn't go to Cleveland at 2, he goes to New York at 3. But the signing of Jameis and Russ shakes things up. So I think that obviously the Giants need to build up their offensive line. And I think Will Campbell would be a great pick at 3. But I think it's interesting because Russ and Jameis, neither of them are the answer. So what's the Giants' plan? Like are they willing to be bad for another year if it means building up that roster rather than drafting a potential franchise quarterback and winning now? Like we saw that with the Bengals. Like the Bengals, when they drafted Jamar Chase, they had a chance to take Penei Sewell at 5, but they took Jamar Chase, and it worked out great for them. So I think that the Giants drafting an offensive lineman with this pick can work out for them in the long run, but it's interesting because they still need a quarterback. It's just it would be flip flopped rather than having Burrow and taking Chase. It would be having Neighbors and drafting your franchise quarterback. So I don't think Shador Sanders is a top 3 talent in this draft, but it definitely makes things interesting now that they've signed Russell Wilson. So I think I would not be surprised if they took Will Campbell. It's just interesting because of the whole situation. They need help literally in so many spots on that roster that I think taking Will Campbell is a good pick. But if they would have not signed Russ, I think for sure they would have taken a quarterback with the 3rd overall pick.
I agree. And right before I made this, the news had come out about Russ. I still think if they kept Jameis, they'd draft a quarterback, let that quarterback sit behind Jameis for a while.
Or compete. Like if he beat out Jameis in camp, yeah.
But I'm gonna make this point. I made this point to you when we were off air. Why do you think that most offensive linemen don't leave as juniors? Because they take a while to develop. Most offensive linemen get redshirted.
Development.
Why wouldn't, and most offensive linemen aren't, if they're going to be elite, they still take time to develop. Offensive linemen are one of the hardest and longest positions to develop. So why wouldn't you build that roster up with, because the Jets had this problem, it was the Jets. Jets had this problem with Justin Fields. Yeah.
Right.
Jets had this problem with Justin Fields. Or no, it wasn't the Jets. Jets just signed Justin Fields. It was the Bears. The Bears had this problem with Justin Fields, where they don't have an offensive line, so your quarterback's going to be running for their life. Even Colorado had this problem with Shador Sanders, where he's running for his life. USC had this problem with Caleb Williams. And now Caleb Williams is still running for his life in the NFL because you didn't build up an offensive line. You decided to take Romo
Right.
Dunze at the 11th pick when you already
I,
had
I
two
think I
serviceable
think
receivers. That's the problem. Is a lot of these teams don't think about offensive line. You draft the quarterback first, and then you take the offensive line. But why not let the offensive line develop a little bit, and then you take a quarterback a bona fide quarterback that could be ready to go in the NFL.
right, and I think the Giants are doing everything right so far. I think that they're going about it the right way, but at the at the same time, like I brought up earlier, I brought up the Bengals. The Bengals did it the complete opposite.
Not
But
frustrating.
at the same time,
Well,
there's not a Joe Burrow in this draft. There's not somebody worth not building up that offensive line for, in my
Well, there's not
opinion.
even a Jamar Chase in this draft. There's no one.
Exactly.
The duo that they have, there's no one comparable to them. So I get that,
Yeah.
but and we ain't
So I
talking about
think
the
the Giants are
Bengals.
going about it the
We ain't
right way.
talking about the Bengals in a little bit, but there's not guys that are. I don't think there's a lot of superstars in this draft. I think it's in the nitty gritty positions,
I,
like Abdul Carter. He's going to be an absolute
yeah,
stud. Will
he's
Campbell's
going to be a
another guy
monster in the
I think is
NFL.
going to be a stud. Travis Hunter, I'm not super high on him. I don't think you're going to be able to play both ways in the NFL. The NFL speed's different. We can talk about that on draft night.
They hit different in the NFL too.
Exactly. Mason Graham, I'm high on him out of the Wolverines. He's going to be a very good one. Will Johnson, even Ashton Jenney. I think Ashton Jenney is the best skill player in this draft. And I even have
I
him
agree with
going.
you.
I even have him being the other than Travis Hunter. I have him as the first skill player being taken off the board.
Right.
But moving on, kind of the same point. The Raiders taking Shador Sanders at 6, and I'm gonna say the 5 teams that are ahead of him. So you got the Titans. Think Cam Ward's going to Miami. I have Abdul Carter going to the
Yeah.
Browns. Will Campbell going to the Giants, and Travis Hunter going to the Patriots. Mason Graham going to the Jags. So you look at this, and there's the Titans taking a quarterback, so they don't need one. The Browns, Watson's still talking about making a comeback, so I don't think they're going to take a quarterback there. The Giants, we just talked about that, and then the Patriots already have their guy. And if I'm the Jags, I'm still believing in Trevor Lawrence. You spend a number 1 pick on him, and there's not a
Yeah.
quarterback worth taking. I don't think Shador Sanders is worth taking and having him compete with Trevor Lawrence. So
I don't even think as a rookie Cam Ward would be worth replacing Trevor Lawrence.
I can agree with that. And
Right now.
and let and try not to get too far off topic, but and if Cam Ward comes to 5, maybe if Cam Ward drops to 5, which won't happen, but Shador
He
Sanders
won't.
going to the Raiders. The Raiders got quarterback problems. They have Gardner Minshew and Aiden O'Connell. I forget who their other quarterback is, unless they sign one in free
Gardner
agency.
Min Gardner Minshew was he's on the Chiefs now.
That's right.
So I think it's Aiden O'Connell and mine's blanking. It's Aiden
I
O'Connell.
don't think they'll sign one in free agency.
I don't think so
Not a
either.
starter. So, and even if they did, let's even say that they did. I think Shador Sanders is a guy that needs to develop anyway. I don't think he's necessarily like a project
Right.
quarterback, kind of like how I thought Anthony Richardson was, or even how I think Jackson Dart is, or pretty much any of these other
Right.
quarterbacks in this draft, like Jalen Moreau, whoever. So you think about Shador Sanders, and he's got arm talent. I think his decision making is not great, but kid's got a cannon on him. I don't think his decision making is top tier. I don't think it's terrible. He doesn't throw a lot of interceptions, but he's also very has a good arm, and he knows how to get the ball in certain places. He also had tremendous
Right.
receivers at Colorado.
I was just
But
about
his
to make that
decision
point.
making, he takes sacks when he doesn't need to. He can throw the ball away. I don't think he can read coverage all that great. It ends up not costing him by turning the ball over, but there's a reason Colorado was 8-4, 9-4, whatever, 8-5.
And 4-8 the year before.
Yeah,
They split over the last 2 seasons.
Yeah, and there's a reason. There's a reason Colorado's not, or there's a reason that Colorado wasn't great. I'm not blaming all that on Shador Sanders. They don't have a defense and they don't have an offensive line. But I can see Shador being taken by the Browns or the Giants, but I just don't think it's smart for those teams. That's why I have him going at 6th. I think that's a great pick for the Raiders. You had a guy that's got all the arm talent in the world. You just needs to be coached up a little bit. Let him sit for a year, kind of like how the Falcons did with Michael Penix. So
Right.
I think that's the right pick for them. Anything you want to add, and then you can get to your next pick.
No, I agree. I think that would be if Shador falls to 6, I think he will. Um, if and when that happens, I think I wouldn't be surprised if the Raiders do draft him. And I think it'd be a good pick in the long run. It might take some time. Like, we saw it with Caleb Williams. Really, the only rookie quarterback we didn't see it with last year was Jaden Daniels. There's going to be growing pains. Like, look at Bo Nix. There was growing pains the first half of the season, but he ended the season on a great note. He almost won. He was a Rookie of the Year candidate. I think that Shador Sanders can be that, but at the same time, like, to add to your point, I don't think he's a project quarterback, but there's going to be growing pains no matter what. I feel like unless he gets drafted into a great situation, which that would involve him sliding down to a playoff team.
Agreed. All right, your next one.
Uh, I have the Steelers taking at 21st overall. I have them taking Ole Miss quarterback Jackson Dart. I think that's a interesting pick because Jackson Dart, if he falls completely out of the first round, I won't be surprised. But if he gets drafted at like right there by the Steelers, I won't be surprised. I think that pick specifically is based off potential to be a good quarterback in the NFL. His decision making is not the best, but he has everything you need to play in the NFL, to be a good NFL quarterback, except for the decision making.
And even the mental, like the Florida game tells you a lot. The
Yeah.
mental, it's not all the way there. And
Throwing
I'll,
into triple coverage and then turning around on the next possession and very next throw throwing an
yeah,
interception.
and costing yourself the game. And I have,
Costing a playoff spot.
exactly, I have the Steelers taking him here because of the uncertainty at the quarterback position. If they sign Aaron Rodgers,
Right.
I don't think they take a quarterback. I don't think they take a quarterback in round 1. I think you probably go defensive line, DB, something on defense, or go for an offensive lineman. Maybe even draft a wide receiver because there's a couple of decent wide
Right.
receivers on the board. So, um, I think that's why I have the Steelers. I don't think they have anywhere else to go when it comes to the quarterback, and I think they're just gonna have to throw Jackson Dart in a bad situation. I think they'll start
Well, I
Rudolph,
think
and then they'll play Jackson Dart once Rudolph starts like crapping the bed. And
I think But the thing is, for Jackson Dart, I think this might be best case scenario. George Pickens, DK Metcalf, Pat Fryermuth is a top 10 tight end in the NFL. Jalen Warren is he's a running back that's on the rise. I think for development,
they still have
plus
Harris too,
let's
don't they?
say, yeah, no, he went to the Chargers. He's a Charger now. So let's say that they get Aaron Rodgers and still draft Jackson Dart. That's the best situation I feel like he can be in as a rookie because he has all that talent around him, and he's got one of the top 10 best quarterbacks of all time to mentor him.
But here's the
Now,
thing: is
if they
I'm
get
not taking Jackson Dart at 20 with a first round pick if I have a quarterback.
if
Yeah, I
exactly the
only have the
only
Steelers taking him here because they have nowhere else to go.
there's the uncertainty, right? If they get Aaron Rodgers, I think that they're gonna, like you said, they're gonna draft someone else in the first round, and they're gonna take someone like Jalen Milroe. It might be Quinn later on in the draft. They're gonna take someone like that, but they're gonna address the needs now. If they get Aaron, well, I mean, quarterback is a need position, but obviously Aaron Rodgers changes that.
At least for a year or so. I got
Yeah, for a year, maybe 2, maybe depending on how he plays in year 1,
uh,
if he goes there.
agreed. I got the Colts taking Tyler Warren at 14. Now, Colts need a tight end. They need and
Right.
Tyler Warren kind of gives me George Kittle vibes. Not as much. I think this would be a pick for the Colts, kind of how the Raiders situation was in last year, where they take the guy and hopefully he balls out. I think Tyler Warren has that potential.
Right.
Like I said, he gives me a lot of George Kittle vibes.
Right.
I think that's a great pick. You upgrade your skill position. You still need a wide receiver, but I think Tyler Warren's better than the best receiver you have on the board, potential wise, because Tyler Warren's a very utility. Like he can do it all. His blocking is a
Well,
little to me. He's definitely a lot more of a vertical threat, but Tyler Warren can move. I think that's kind of what
do
the
you
Colts are hoping for with this pick. I think it's the best pick because you give Anthony Richardson some help.
right? And to add to that, when it comes to them taking a tight end, I wouldn't be surprised if they took Loveland because he's another really good tight end. Like I feel like I don't know which of the two is better, right?
I think
They're
Tyler
both
Warren's a lot
great
more of
tight
a
end
gadget.
prospects. You think?
I think so. I think when it comes to being a vertical threat, I think Tyler Warren's a much better. I think he's a
Yeah.
lot better of a playmaker because he can do it all. He lines up at fullback. He can he can
Yeah.
block outside.
Yeah.
Colson Loveland, I think he's a lot more. He's a lot better of a blocking tight end than Warren, but he's still got that vertical
Right.
threat on the outside. Tyler Warren, you can throw him in the
Right.
slot. I don't think you can do that as much with Colson Loveland, especially in the
No.
NFL. They did it at the Wolverines, but the
Right.
Wolverines didn't have a very good passing game this year. So I think Warren's a lot more of a playmaking type of tight end, especially for his first couple years in the NFL. And then Colson Loveland is going to be more of your blocking threat. I think Colson Loveland's a great tight end too for his first couple of years, and then he'll grow into that.
Right.
And I've got Colson Loveland getting.
I agree.
I have Loveland being taken at 18 by Seattle.
Okay. I mean, Seattle needs a tight end anyways. So I feel like whichever one isn't drafted by the Colts, hypothetically,
I don't think either tight
the
end's
other one
that
gets
far
drafted.
off. I just think
Right.
playmaking
Right.
wise, and for what Anthony Richardson needs, he needs a guy that'll get open in the seat.
Warren's the best fit.
I think exactly. I think for Seattle, they need a lot more. They need the blocking help, and then give who is the quarterback Darnold another weapon,
Darnold. Right.
especially with Metcalf and Lockett both leaving. So that way you have
Right.
Loveland and Smith and Jigba. Oh, who was the receiver that Seattle
And
just
Cooper
got?
Cup.
It's
Cooper
Cup. Yeah,
Cup.
that's right.
Cooper
But
Cup.
Cup's a version, not the same version of his old self. But moving
I
on,
still think he's a 1,000-yard receiver.
I just don't know because
So
I think Smith and Jigba's wide receiver one this year. I think Smith and Jigba is going to be a bona fide stud this year. I
I
think
agree.
Smith and
He was
Jigba
last year.
I think Smith and Jigba might lead the league in receiving this year, especially if they take
I, w-
Loveland.
I, I wouldn't be surprised.
Especially if they take
Yeah.
Loveland. Especially when you have
It's going to draw defenders off of him. Cooper Cup's going to draw defenders off of him.
exactly.
Like he's going to have more one-on-one situations.
And I think
So
Smith and
I
Jigba is a
completely agree
bona
with that.
fide stud. I've seen it at Ohio State. I've seen every snap he played at Ohio State. I've seen him play in the NFL and how he came into that role of being. He started at wide receiver 3, and then he went to wide receiver 2, and eventually made more plays than DK Metcalf this year.
Yeah, he led the team in receiving.
And I think Smith and Jigba is a bona fide stud. I think he's going to play tremendous this year. I think he will be the best Ohio State receiver in the NFL this year.
I agree with that. I mean, I think he might have been last year as well. So my next interesting pick is it's actually the pick you have right before Ole Miss quarterback Jackson Dart getting drafted. The Broncos taking Omarion Hampton. The reason this one's interesting to me is because 99% of the time, drafting a running back in the first round is a reach. And I feel like it's the same this year, in exception of Ashton Genty. I feel like Ashton Genty is the only running back that I would say is a lock to be a first round pick. So I get it. The Broncos need a running back. I understand. But do do you really draft Amari and Hampton at 20, or do you potentially try to trade higher into the second round and get him? What do you think? Because this is a bit interesting to me.
So the Broncos desperately need a running back. They don't have one. They need to take some of that edge off of Bo Nix.
Right.
Amari and Hampton's a very
But
good.
do you reach that far?
I don't think any of their needs are that pressing other than running back. And I'm doing this without trading back.
Especially
I
not
think
after the free agency they had.
exactly. I think I didn't do this with any trades because it
Right.
takes forever. I wouldn't be
Obviously,
surprised
yeah.
if the Broncos trade
And you're
back.
just guessing at that point.
Exactly.
Exactly.
I don't know if I don't think I wouldn't be surprised if Broncos trade for one of the top picks in the second round. I wouldn't be surprised. I
Right.
think it would honestly be a good move to take a running back there because you got studs. You got Travion Henderson, Quinshon Judkins, Cam Scatterboo. Hampton might fall back there. There's quite a few other running
Right.
backs that I'm not thinking of. So
Oh, there's a lot.
yeah,
Yeah.
there's plenty of running backs that I'm not thinking of. Those are the couple that come to the top of my head. So you've got tremendous running backs in this draft. Wouldn't be surprised if they trade back. But I think running back is by far should be their first pick of the draft. I think that's by
Oh,
far the most
I agree
pressing need.
100%.
I wouldn't be surprised if they take Malachi Starks at safety if he's still
Right.
there. I think that would be a great pick if he's still on the board. So I think the Broncos could go either way because running back is a very pressing need. It just kind of depends on who falls where and stuff like that.
I agree. And I think that running back is the position they need to address most desperately. But again, like I was saying, I don't know if I take him at 20th overall. I think I either trade down or something. I mean, I'd be surprised. I would be surprised to see him draft him at 20, but at the same time, I wouldn't.
I agree with that. Moving on, Texans taking Josh Simmons. I don't think this is crazy. I would have had them taking Ibuka because I think they're very high on Ibuka, especially with CJ Stroud being there. But with them just decimating their offensive line, they've got to take some sort of offensive lineman. I think they need to replace that offensive tackle. I think Josh Simmons is the best
Right.
offensive tackle available. I wouldn't be surprised if they take Tyler Booker, a couple other Grace Abel, a couple other offensive linemen. I think Josh Simmons would be the best offensive tackle available. That's why I have them taking him
I agree.
there.
I agree with that. And to move on to the last thing, let's talk about the new rules that were introduced today by the NFL.
So
Uh,
the refs are now able to be overruled by replay assist. It's about time. No, they're doing this
I
more
agree.
with
It's about
cameras.
time.
From what I've read, and all the information isn't out yet, but they're doing it more with cameras, and they're doing like some
Mhm.
sort of technology. I'm not sure exactly what they're doing, but the replay assist can just chime in and overrule the refs, and then the chain
And
gang will be on standby in case they need it. I like this. It's
I
about
agree
time.
with that. I did
The
too.
Chiefs are going
I
0
agree
17
because
this year.
oh come on, don't talk crazy. Don't talk crazy. The dynasty is very much alive. Listen, I agree and I like it as well because um there's a lot of times you see a call and when they replay it, the refs got it completely wrong. So it's about time. I agree. I feel like this should have been a thing for a while, but now that it's finally came to fruition, and I like it.
Moving on, both teams now get the ball in overtime.
I like that one better.
I don't know how to feel about it because at one point you don't need to make NFL games longer. Another
True,
point,
but at
at
the
the
same
same
time,
point, it's a little bit fair. But if you want to complain about it, stop it. That's kind of what I think. You shouldn't be going to overtime anyway. If you're really going to complain about it, just beat them,
exactly.
and it's fair. So I don't think you need to make the games longer. I get it. I'm fine with it. I don't hate it, but like I hate the sex
If they
rule.
would have left it alone, you would have been fine with it.
Exactly. It's already a thing in the
Oh, the
playoffs.
next
That's
rule
what
I
I
hate
care.
too.
touchbacks are
Yeah.
now going to the 35. So the landing zone
I don't like that.
is going to stay the same. I think it's between like the goal line and the 20 or the 25.
Yeah.
Between the 25 and the 35 is going to be a dead zone, and then the touchbacks will go out to the 35. I hate this rule. I hate it, hate it, hate it, hate it, hate it. And they're
I do
doing
too.
it
I mean,
to increase kick returns. But if
which
I'm not
I
if
understand.
I'm crazy, tell me if I'm crazy. But they changed the kickoff rule because there were injuries. I hate the new kickoff to begin with.
I do too. I want it to go back. I don't like the new kickoff either.
But didn't they stop kickoffs the way they were because of injuries? And now you're
Yeah, now they
encouraging
want the
teams.
most barbaric play. The most barbaric play in any sport, if we're being completely honest. They want more of it, but hey, we're trying to reduce injuries. I don't understand it.
And
I don't understand it.
just deal with the touchbacks. I don't need a kickoff return. I really don't.
Exactly. I mean, most quarterbacks in the touchbacks are at the 35. If you're an NFL caliber quarterback, you should be able to throw the ball 65 yards. Like that, they're moving the ball up 15 yards more than it was 2 years ago. I like even with the new kickoff rule being the way it is, I could live with it. I didn't like it, but I can live with it. But now I feel like they're just adding too much to it. Like just I leave it alone. I feel like that's the way I
Go
see it.
back to normal.
I feel like they should have left it alone to start with. Yeah, they should have left it alone to start with.
This is so stupid. And
I
why
agree.
should you only have to go on a 65-yard drive to score a touchdown?
I know Smart's actually like
You should. The only way, in my opinion, a 65-yard touchdown drive should be acceptable is if you got a turnover or in some way you return the ball to the 35.
The kickoff
in some
the
way.
kickoff rule should be the same as college football. You can fair catch it before as soon as the ball's kicked, even if it's outside the end zone.
Right.
That's how it should be. I'm fine. I don't need kickoff returns. I really don't.
I don't either. I'm here to watch the way the teams play on offense and defense. Oh, congratulations! You had a 20-yard kickoff return.
Yeah, I'm cool seeing a punt return, but I don't need kickoff returns. Moving on.
Yeah.
Last but not least, they're talking about banning the quote-unquote tush push. This is so stupid.
Listen.
This is so stupid. You're going to ban a play because one team can only run it so well. It's been legal forever, but you're going to ban it because this one team runs it so well. Like, that is so dumb. Do you want Saquon Barkley having 35 touchdowns next year? Like, do you want that? Because it will happen. I'm dead serious.
Listen,
Saquon Barkley will have 35 touchdowns next year if you ban the push sneak. Like, this is so stupid. It's a legal quarterback sneak. I don't get it.
I see both sides of it. Like I completely understand what you're saying, and I agree with that. But then part of me is like, how fair is it that you're putting three guys behind a quarterback who already squats 600 and just pushing him 6 inches into the end zone?
Guess what?
I get it. Like Jalen Hurts' rushing stats are so inflated by this one play. Like they're almost like his rushing touchdowns are almost comparable to Lamar Jackson, and that's not fair. That is not fair in any way, shape, or form.
But you're going to punish a team because they run the ball, run this one play so well. Like, that's the insane part.
I don't think it should be banned.
It's legal for every team. If you don't like it, stop it. I'm tired of owners complaining about a play.
Exactly.
The Giants, I don't even think the Lions played the Eagles, or it was the Packers. The Packers.
Yeah, it was the Packers.
Didn't the Packers get their asses handed to them by the Eagles? And it wasn't because of the push sneak. They couldn't stop Saquon Barkley. Like I said, Saquon Barkley will have 35 touchdowns next year if you ban this play.
Saquon Barkley, I agree.
This is ridiculous. Listen, stop making rules. Stop. The game is fine the way it is. You are ruining the product. You are ruining the product. I can't stand this.
To me, it's one of those things where if in 2 days it comes out, hey, it didn't get banned, it's still legal. I'll be like, all right, cool. I'm going to scroll. If it comes out and they say they banned it, cool. I'm going to scroll. Because, like I said, I see both sides of it, but at the end of the day, just leave it alone, right? Just find a way to stop it.
I'm a Eagles fan. I'm by no means an Eagles fan. But this is ridiculous. I'm by no means an Eagles fan. Like I was rooting for him in the Super Bowl just because I was tired of seeing the Chiefs win. To be honest, I want to see something different
I
happen.
wasn't.
I want to see something different happen. But at the same
Right.
point, I'm tired of them making rules. It's so stupid.
You want to hear that?
I'm so tired.
I agree. I agree.
Moving on, you can take the floor. We will be doing our keys to victory for the final four.
So first off, I think the key to victory for Duke is protecting the paint and just use the talent you have to your advantage, right? You've got three guys that are probably going to get drafted in the first round, right? Use that to your advantage, right? I
This might be the most
like
talented Duke team
let
that they've
Cooper
had.
Flag be Cooper Flag. Yeah, let Coop be Coop, right? Let those guys do their thing. Now,
And one of the things that have one of the key things that have gotten Duke to where they are is because they're so much more talented. I think they're much more talented than Houston. Not by not by a lot, not a lot, but like
I
they're definitely more talented than Houston.
it's not close. Yeah, 100%.
You got to use that talent. And for Houston, we have what's gotten Houston here is their 3-point shooting. It's their 3-point
Defense.
shooting is they've been able to shoot the three, even though I don't think they were really great 3-point shooting team in the regular season, but 3-point shooting has won them some games. They've shot, I think it was like 42% in the tournament from three, and
Yeah,
that's what's gotten
something
them
like that.
past some of these close games, like against Purdue.
That's what's gotten them to the Final Four.
Exactly.
That and their defensive play.
Well, the defense has to be more important than the offense. Defense, your
100%.
defense has to be the best offense in this game.
Especially against a team like Duke.
Well, Duke's. The problem is how are you going to play this? Because I don't really know how to play this. I'm not a basketball guru. Not gonna lie.
Right.
How are you gonna play this? Are you gonna say Cooper Flag's gonna get his? We're gonna just try to play good defense. We're gonna try to stop everyone else, which I don't think that's a great idea. Or are you gonna say we're gonna
I mean,
stop? We're gonna only stop Cooper Flag and make everyone else beat us. And
game
because they
planning for
can.
one player never works.
Because
Game planning for one player, I feel like is a bad idea.
not in the Final Four.
Yeah, not on the biggest stage. We saw that in the Super Bowl. The Chiefs shut down Saquon, but everyone else had a great
Exactly.
game. And I feel like that might be what happens here. Like, sure, congratulations, you shut down Cooper Flag, but you still lost by 20 points.
So
Like, I think game planning for one player is the worst thing you can do. And especially, like you said, in the Final Four, on the biggest stage, I feel like that would just be a complete meltdown. Right?
I don't think that's
That's
crazy.
my take on it. That's my take on it.
But either way, you gotta play good defense because if you're just gonna let Duke run up the score, I don't think Houston can keep up shooting. I don't think Houston's gonna be able to keep up shooting with Duke. So defense has to be your best offense. Turnovers, rebounds. It's gotta be offensive rebounds are gonna be huge in this game. Whoever wins the offensive rebound battle will easily win this game.
I agree. Now on to the SEC showdown, Florida versus Auburn. I think for Florida, the biggest keys to victory is they need Walter Clayton to be Walter Clayton. And you cannot let Johnny Broome dominate in the paint. Again, you can't game plan for one player, but at the same time, you've got to keep him from dominating in the paint. That's part of what's gotten Auburn so far. That's part of why they've gotten as far as they have. Is Broome has been spectacular.
Johnny Broome's the best player in basketball, in college basketball, bar none. I don't think it's particularly close.
Think?
Better than Coop,
You
absolutely.
think? I see.
On a player-by-player standpoint,
I got called crazy when I said that. I said that to a couple of my friends last week, and I got called crazy. I'm glad I'm not the only person who,
no,
who thinks
Johnny
Cooper
Broome
Flag
should
is
win
not.
the Naismith Player of the Year. Johnny Broome, and you saw this in the Michigan State games, really, is Johnny
Yeah.
Broome just was making everything. He was drawing fouls, doing this, that, and the third. And if you focus, you just can't let Broome own you in the paint. Florida's got the bigs to compete with them. I think that's some of what Michigan State struggled with. But you can't let Broome have 20 and 20. You can't let him continually get offensive rebounds. Walton Clayton, I said this
Exactly.
earlier. Walton Clayton, if there's a guy in the tournament that I want in all 64 teams, if there's a guy I want taking a shot in the final minute or in the final seconds, it's
Walter
going to be
Clayton.
Walton Clayton. Walton Clayton gets high in
I
the
agree.
final minutes, and Florida's ability to create runs when the game gets tight, I think that's what's going to cost Auburn this game. I think Florida's ability to
Right.
go on a run is going to lose. It's why Auburn's going to lose this game.
And if you're Auburn, you can't let that happen.
Exactly.
Right? You can't let that happen. You need Johnny Broome to be Johnny Broome. Florida needs Johnny Broome to not be Johnny Broome.
Exactly. And for Auburn, we got kind of going into it. Keys to victory for Auburn. They got to limit the fouls. They struggled with that against Michigan State. Michigan State didn't drive. I don't think Florida's going to be afraid to drive to the rim. I don't think Florida's going
I
to be
don't.
afraid of that. So you've got to limit the fouls. You can't get in a foul trouble in the first half because this game's going to come down to the wire. I have no doubt about it. And Johnny Broome needs to
Again,
be healthy. You saw him take a tumble. It didn't look like he lost a step. He's got 6 days to recover. He needs to be healthy. And
and like you said off air when the Auburn Michigan State game, you wouldn't touch that game with a 10-foot pole. I agree completely with this game, right? Like I probably wouldn't bet on this game,
under.
but oh yeah, I think so too.
Without looking at it, hold on. Let me check the under real quick. So they got Florida. ESPN has Florida as a 2.5 point favorite. The over under at 160. I might take the over actually. I thought they were gonna have the over under
Think
at 170. Well, 160. That's 80. No, definitely an under.
I take under.
Yeah,
I
definitely
think
an
yeah, I
under.
was about to say. I think yeah,
I think it's gonna be like a 76 to like 72 type of game.
73, something like that. Yeah,
Maybe
72,
74 to
72.
69, something like that. Um,
Yeah,
and then for Duke and Houston, it's got Duke as a 5.5 point favorite and the over under at 136. I would take the
68
over.
each.
I'll take the
Yeah, I
over.
would too.
I'll take the over and Duke with the points.
Yeah, I was gonna say 100%.
I'll take
Like,
I'll take Florida to cover, Duke to cover.
Holy shit.
Yeah, I'll take that.
I agree.
Also, Houston's plus 210 on the money line. That's interesting. Would be crazy
Yeah.
to sprinkle a little bit on that. Also, I'll take the over, but I don't think the under is crazy either. But
No,
136 is not a lot of points. That's less than 70 per team.
yeah, it's 68, 68. That's yeah, I don't think I would probably take the over on that game.
Oh, Justin.
But I mean, they did
Personally.
limit Alabama to 65, and Houston can't shoot
Right,
like that.
but they scored 85. Yeah.
Yeah, but I don't think this is gonna be a 20-point game.
Unless it's lopsided.
I think Houston's defense is light years better than Alabama's. I think Houston has the
Right.
best defense left in this playoff
Oh, 100%.
in the tournament.
1000%.
All right. So, who do you got for Florida Auburn?
I got Florida, I think.
And
I
Duke
mean,
and
we said
Houston.
it. Duke. I mean,
I will also
to touch on it a
piggyback
little
off
bit.
of both of those picks. And who do you have in the Natty?
I got Duke. Like, don't like we said before the bracket started. Like I remember talking to you about it. You said if Florida wins the whole thing, don't be surprised, right? And I agree with that completely. Like if Florida's right, if Florida wins the national championship, if they beat Duke, it'll be like I won't be very surprised about it. But at the same time, like Duke is the best team in college basketball right now. I think Duke wins it all. I think that's just my take.
I'm also going to piggyback off of that pick. And anything else you want to add? About anything?
It's great to be here. It's great to be here.
All right. Well, we just wrapped up the first episode with Dylan Chambers. That went way longer than it was
Thank
supposed
you.
to. I don't know if you saw it, but a little thumbs down popped up on your screen. I thought that was a little funny. Try to keep my bearing a little bit. But thank everyone for tuning in. There's a lot of sports on this weekend. Maybe check out if you got some time in the morning, Saturday morning, maybe check out some college lacrosse. It's heating up a little bit. It's
Yeah.
very they say it's the fastest game on 2 feet. I'm going to teach my good buddy Chambers to a little bit about lacrosse, but
Yeah,
like
I don't know anything about lacrosse.
it's actually been
I'd
very
like to learn
entertaining.
though.
So
I'd like to learn.
I've been very impressed with college lacrosse. If you got time on Saturday morning, maybe or I guess Saturday afternoon Eastern, take some time,
Right.
watch that. I don't think college basketball starts until like 2 in the afternoon. I think.
Right.
Oh, Eastern. So yeah, thank everyone for tuning in. It's another tremendous episode. Can't wait for draft day. If you're still here, we will likely
Counting
be
down the
doing
days.
a draft live stream. So stay on the lookout for that. Maybe even potentially a national championship live stream. I'm not sure about that one yet. But just keep out on the lookout for that. We appreciate all your time, your likes, subscriptions. Could not thank you enough for all the
All the
support.
support.
And you'll see us back sometime next week. Thank you everyone for tuning in.